You ready? It's fine.
Hey, Queen P.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and get started if you want me to.
Okay, you go ahead and get started. I really wasn't ready to give me 2 seconds, but you go ahead and get started.
Are you sure? All right. So last week we talked about vision and purpose, but we mostly talked about purpose and what that looks like. How do you recognize your purpose? How do you know the difference between your purpose and your vision? We talked about giftings. We talked about callings. We tried to really dig in there and make sure that what we've been focusing on is really what's going to push us towards the vision. I'm trying to think, maybe I need to put my headphones on as well. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound fine.
Okay. All right, because I'm streaming from my phone, so I'm not sure. But anyhow, all right, so those are the things that we talked about on last week. And then I gave you guys an assignment at the end of the week. Do you remember what that was?
I'm still trying to hook this thing up,
so at the end
on my little tripod thing.
No worries.
Okay, say something.
Something. Can you hear me?
All right, we're good.
All right.
Okay, we're good. Y'all got to excuse me. I had to put on adult hair. I know last week we talked about calling, purpose, gifts. I intended to really listen to it over again about homework. But why don't you go ahead and refresh our minds?
So one of the things I wanted you guys to do was really to figure out what your purpose was. What your purpose was, your actual purpose, making sure that that what you've been working on was not necessarily your gift or your talent, but actually your purpose. That's why we spent so much time last week kind of focusing on that, because a lot of times we confuse it all. We get it all jumbled up. And I know you were saying like, oh, wait a minute, you keep saying all these different things. I didn't know that they were all separate. But it's so simple for us to confuse our gifts and talents with our purpose. Because you have the ability to sing doesn't necessarily mean that you are meant to be a singer. Just because you can stand in front of the church and proclaim the gospel doesn't necessarily mean that you were meant to be a preacher. There is a difference between a gift and a calling and a purpose. And so I think a lot of times we get very, very confused with that, because we think that whatever I'm talented at or, is the thing that I'm supposed to run with. If that were the case, then I wouldn't be sitting right here right now talking to you guys. I'd be in Australia somewhere walking a runway or, singing somewhere, but just because I can do those things or I might have a little bit of a gift there doesn't mean that that's what I was put here to do. That's not what I was created to do necessarily. And then last week we talked also about how purpose evolves. Mm-hmm. I know you brought up, you mentioned your husband and then where he felt like his purpose was right now. There's that potential. I don't want people to ever think that purpose has got to be some really great, huge thing, and no purpose is greater than the next, So like how I was saying earlier, that we are all connected. I said that last week. I believe that we're all connected in some way. So if your purpose is solely to, if you're a lunch person at the school, and your purpose is to serve those children every day, and you take that very seriously, you make sure those kids get fed, and if you see a kid that comes in that doesn't really eat, you take a little extra care and concern for them. You're placed there for a reason. It may not have been, if it wasn't for you, they may not, that child may never eat. You know what I'm saying? So but they're connected. There was a reason why that person was placed there. There's purpose behind that position. So I think a lot of times we always think that everything has to be so great and big and grand. And trust me, there are those that are called to the great, big, and grand. And then there are those that are not. But it doesn't make a difference. We need every part of it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. And I think a lot of times people want that great, big, and grand vision and purpose and everything else, and feel like because the vision for their life is not necessarily huge, that it's not important. Hey, Roxana.
But that's not true. And that's basically what I'm trying to say, because we all, just like, how, I think it was Steve Harvey's story where he talks about how he had, that couple that was in his life that really supported him. That was part of their purpose. Maybe it wasn't their purpose to be a big comedians traveling the world, but it was their purpose to help that one comedian that needed the help. You know what I'm saying? So we all have to understand what our gifts and talents are, and how they fit in with our purpose. Because your gifts and your talents are what's going to help you with your purpose. Those are the tools that you need in order to move forward in your purpose. So,
understood.
In order for us to move on and talk about vision, then when you have a good foundation, a good understanding of who you are, what your purpose is, your gifts and your talents that you possess, and how they work together for you to be able to move forward in what you've been called to do, now you can actually put that big picture together and say, this is the vision, that I've been given for my life. And then you can start to put everything together and move forward.
I really like how last week you talked about the backwards planner. And when you use that analogy, it kind of makes everything make sense. So if we look at like the backwards planner, I think that's what you said, backwards planner, right?
Backwards planning, yes.
Okay. So the vision is like the whole piece, the whole puzzle put together, so to speak, because I really like when you use that analogy too. But each little piece of the puzzle has a purpose.
Right.
Some may be corner pieces, because we all know it's easier to put the corner pieces together than the middle of it. And I think that's where a lot of people get frustrated when it comes to their purpose and the vision for their life, is when it comes to that middle part where you're just trying to figure out what goes where.
And I think that's where, that's really where the journey comes in, the journey along the road to purpose, towards your vision. Because when you think about it, I always say that when we were put on this earth, people always say, oh, why are we here? Why do we exist? And I like to believe that part of our journey has a lot to do with getting to that vision. So everything that you're doing in between is like those little pieces in the middle of the puzzle, and so you're putting those pieces together as you make your way along to the big vision. But like you said, you have the big picture, like on the puzzle box, and then it's easy to go ahead and put those corners together, the parts that you see. So this is your vision that you have for your life, right? The parts that you see. So for instance, if you're married and you have kids, what you see is going to be, your husband, your children, your household. That's what you can see because it's right there in front of you. Those are obvious. So that's part of your purpose. That's part of the big vision for your life, right? But then I believe that those other little pieces that go into there, those are the details. Those are the things that say, remember how I was saying when you're looking at your vision, you should know how it feels. You should be able to write that vision. That was the other homework I gave you guys. Start trying to write out what your actual vision looks like. But you should be able to write that vision in such a way that it reads like a story. Like you can feel it, you can taste it, you can touch it, you can see it, you can smell it. You feel like you're already there. Like when you start talking about how your family life is, because the vision that you see is like a painting on the wall. It's very descriptive. You don't just look at a painting and say, you might say, oh, that's just a flower. But most of the time when we look at a painting, we say, oh, that's a red rose with a green stem and 5 thorns sticking out the side. And look at how the sun catches it on the corner. Because you're able to see all those little details that make that painting what it is. And so your vision, your overall vision, that's how clearly you should be able to see it. That's how it should, that's how it should be. You should be able to say, this is the vision that I have for my life. These are my corners that fit in. And now I'm going to fill in those little pieces. And you won't know where all the little pieces go to. But as you go along, as you move along and you go out through trying to pursue and accomplish that vision, I believe that's when it starts to come together.
And Roxana said, well, you can see the comments. Can you see the comments?
Yes, I see them now.
Oh, okay. She could taste her vision and smell it. I know hers smell like the outdoors because she's an outdoorsy person. Good outdoors, like good naturey, pretty scenery outdoors. For everybody that's on, I would like to know, when you think about the vision for your life, the purpose in your life, where are you getting stuck? Where are you getting confused? KM is a visionary while she's here. Y'all better use this time. Ask her, any questions that you may have. That's what this live training is about. I know this is, and I'm sure some of the queens could agree, I see the big picture, right? I could see the huge picture, and I find myself sometimes getting lost in the details because patience is a lifelong journey with me and God. He probably been working on me having patience since I was a little girl, and I can admit that. I'm not a very patient person. And because I do get caught up in the details, and it's funny that you use art, because as a artist, as an artist, I will get lost in, what type of medium did they use? Did they draw? Did they paint it? Is it realism? Is this charcoal? Is this a little color? Get lost in the process of trying to create that big vision. When I see it, I'll get lost and I'll get frustrated. Then I'll be like, Lord, I need a nap and a I don't know if that was a question.
Well, so getting lost in the details is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. And what I would just say is that those who can see, their whole vision, for one, that's a good thing. And I think when you're getting lost in details, you're just having trouble trying to sort through, like, where do you start and how do you go after it. And so then, now this is where we get a little bit more technical. So this is where I say, whenever, like, I have a notebook in front of me, and in my notebook, I normally take, like, whenever I have all these different thoughts, I know we talked about this last week, I write all my thoughts out that I have in my mind. But one of the other things I started doing was all of the major accomplishments. I had a moment where I said, you know what, Lord, every idea that you give me, I'm going to write it down. I mean, not even write it down, I'm going to do it. And so one day I sat down and I wrote down every single idea he'd given me, from businesses to products and services. I wrote it all down, all the way down to names of books. And I said, okay, now here's everything on this piece of paper. And obviously it fits with the vision, but what do I do with that? How do I accomplish it? How do I tackle that? And so I just looked at it and said, okay, now that I have everything that was, given to me to do, what is it that's going to take the longest to do? So again, we're going with the backwards planning. So I said, what will take me the longest to do? And I kind of marked that as my last thing that I would work on, kind of. Then I said, what can I do the quickest? What on here can I tackle and knock it out and make it happen right now? And I put a number 1 next to it. Then I said, well, what would, if I make this happen, what on this list could get done because I made that happen? And then I marked that. So I went through and I made sure that I just kind of numbered all of those ideas so that I knew which one to start first, and then the series that I was going to go through it. And of course, those are like part of those details that are working towards that overall vision. I'm trying to read what you guys are saying here. So Lavon, you said you're a planner, so you have to make sure every detail is planned and have backup plans, which is awesome. I mean, that's awesome. And that's what we should do. Make sure all the details are there. But do you ever, because you're so lost in the details, do you ever miss the big vision, the big picture? I know, for instance, I'm planning an event this weekend, and we were talking about, how we wanted to go off, and I had an overall vision for the event. But what was good about it was that the vision that I had for the event was like a canvas. It was like, this is kind of the theme. This is the idea behind what I'm trying to accomplish. And so as I went forward in preparing to make it happen, if some of the details weren't exactly what I thought they should be in order to make the big picture, it didn't bother me because I knew that even if it was partially what I wanted, it would still fit the big picture because the big picture was set. So sometimes, the little details, when you're making sure that you're planning out the little details for your big picture, and let's be more specific. When you talk about your details that you get lost in, Valencia, what are you really referring to? Are you talking about the details of, well, I need to, how I can split this screen and invite somebody on to FaceTime? That's my detail.
Well, I am a perfectionist who overthinks and gets frustrated. So even when we talk about event planning, I'll have it down to what I want, and when I get to those little details and I see that they're not going the way that I want to, the best way to sum it up is I like depending on myself. I know that's part of my problem, and I know that's something I have to get over to get to that big vision. I have to get over the fact that some of the pieces have to come from other people. Because then I won't get frustrated. I'll have that team or whatever that says, "Hey, I got this," and I could trust that. But see the way I made up, it's very, and I know that's like, and it has part to do with the group. If we look at the group as a whole and the makeup of the group and all the different moving pieces of the group, right? And this is where my ADD kicked in. This is why I love this whole private thing in a group, because we could just be, 100% honest and everything else. It's hard to trust people. It depends on me. And that way, if something doesn't go how I want to go, I have nobody to be mad at but me. But I know getting to that big vision, like I might have the artwork, but somebody else has got to bring the canvas. I mean, paint. So it's letting go of some of those little details that's taking up time away from me getting to the bigger details. Like you said, what will take the longest to do is going to take me even longer, because I feel like when it comes to my vision, it's mine. It's my baby. I have to have everything.
So let me help you with this. Let me help you a little bit. Okay? Because I understand, because I was there. But no one ever got anywhere by themselves, right? You ever heard that whole story about the turtle that was on the top of a pole? The turtle didn't get there by himself, right? He's a turtle, he didn't climb on top of that pole. Someone had to put him there. And so, just like with this event, because I'm like you, I am a perfectionist. I do like things a certain way, and I like them how I like them. But I've also learned through a lot of my, different positions in life, that you've got to give other people an opportunity, to help, right?